Welcome to the Kyle Terry Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk to business owners and experts in their field about the strategies and tactics they use to grow their businesses, retain clients, and get referrals. Join us as we dive deep into the world of business and explore the best practices for building and maximizing success. And we're live.
All right.
Today with Mr. Brad Howard. How are you doing today, Brad?
I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. So sometimes I will tell everybody who the person is, and other times I will let them tell who they are and what they do. So tell us who you are. What do you do?
Sure. I am Brad Howard. I am a mortgage lender with Ruoff Mortgage.
All right. Sales
manager with them, and go by the online persona, Brad the Mortgage Dad.
Perfect. I like it. I've always liked something for people to be remembered by, besides just their name or whatever. So that's a very catchy Brad the Mortgage Dad. So yeah. Do people recognize you for that?
They do. So it's funny. I never planned on marketing myself that way. It was something I had put out there, started doing videos online. And I was like, we'll just test this out, see how it goes. And somebody had mentioned, you've got to have a brand.
Yeah.
And never really thought about it. And then my current boss was like, you should be Brad the Mortgage Dad.
Yeah.
And, you're always doing stuff with your kids and all that. And, never really put too much thought into it. And I was like, well, we'll try it and run with it. And it was about 9 months later, I went to an event and somebody just shouted out, didn't even know who they were. Somebody shouted out, Brad the Mortgage Dad, there you are. And I was like, holy shit, this works. Can I cuss?
Yeah. Yeah, you're good.
I was like, damn, this works. And then kind of at that point decided I'm going all in with this. Bought the website, got the logo made, and have been branding that ever since.
Oh, sweet. I didn't know you had the website.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
BradTheMortgageDad.com. Went and bought that real quick.
Heck yeah. That's legit. I knew so I've got your logo ready. We made a couple tweaks to your logo. So okay. I've got that ready to send over to you and start maybe putting on some stuff for you.
Yeah.
So let's back it up a little bit. What's your business journey been like? Like, what did you do before you got in as a mortgage lender?
Okay.
And then kind of what brought you to becoming a mortgage lender? Or what made you want to become a lender?
So I've always been in the financial field. Okay. So I started out as a teller straight out of college at a bank, small local bank here, moved up to banker, and then went from banker to kind of a side thing for a small amount of time, is what I want to call it. It was essentially going business to business as a banker to sign up all their employees with checking accounts. Okay. And get direct deposit set up. So essentially a business to business transaction instead of business to consumer, which I was used to.
So you would go to the business and then they would suggest for their employees to do the direct
right. We'd be part of their new hire orientation. We'd have incentives for them to sign up. Like if you set up your direct deposit, we'll pay you $200.
Yeah.
That type of thing. And it was just a way to build households within the bank.
Yep.
And just get more of those consumers. So then that way we could eventually cross-sell to them and figure out the rest of their finances and give you a little behind the scenes of the banking world and how they grow their business. Then did that for a short stint. That's where I met the mortgage lender that kind of helped me push me into the direction I'm at now. Yeah. And so met him, talked to him, got real passionate about it and really liked to do it. And I don't know how much you want me to go into this, but I could sit here and talk for hours. So,
no, you're good.
So at the time I had just taken this position as kind of a business to business banker. And the girl that was the mortgage lender at the bank I was at the time had just quit. Never thought she was going to quit. Thought I was going to have to go somewhere else to kind of learn mortgages, but she had just quit. So I was like, this is my opportunity. So I called up the manager who knew I wanted to do this for years, said, hey, awesome. Look, the position opened up. what do I need to do to apply? And he goes, well, the bank's got a policy. You have to be in the current position for 12 months before you can apply for anything else.
Okay.
I was like, well, that's a stupid policy. Like, I have put in multiple reviews where I've wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And, I never thought that position was going to open up. We only have one mortgage lender, which now they have, I think, 4 in Lexington for this bank. Never thought it was going to open up. So I was just looking to grow in my industry, and took this position. I've only been doing it maybe for a couple months. And he goes, I tell you what, talk to your manager and talk to HR and see if they'll make an exception. Yeah. So I was like, okay. Called up HR first and said, look, pull my reviews. You can see I wanted to be a mortgage loan officer.
Even before the position that you were in?
Before the position I was in. Yeah. And they said, you know what? If your manager signs off on it, we're fine. So call my manager up immediately after that, tell her what's going on. And she goes, I hate to hear that, but if that's what you're passionate about, I'm not going to hold you back from doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, perfect. So I called HR up. I said, she's going to email you that she's okay with it. Let's get this ball rolling.
Yeah.
The very next day, her boss calls me, and he was like, I'm not here to hold you back or anything, but you made a commitment to us, and so I need you to fulfill that 12-month commitment.
Huh. Like, all right, see ya.
Yeah, so that's kind of what happened. I was like, oh, really? I said, that's the definition of holding me back. This is something I want to do.
Yeah.
And you're telling me, no, you're not going to let me do it. So you think I want to work for you now?
Yeah.
He's like, well, we had a back and forth for a while. And I was trying to convince him, like, this is not the choice you want to make.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going anywhere. I said, well, how about this? Here's my 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
I'm quitting. And, in hindsight, probably not the best emotional decision I made. But, that's how I felt. I was very passionate about this job. And so then I went to be a branch manager at another bank, and I had a terrible mortgage experience there. I bought my house through this bank that I was a branch manager of. Didn't really care for babysitting employees too much.
Yeah.
And had a terrible experience. I told my wife, I came home that day, I was like, if this is what's out here, I should have no problem in this business.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of finding somebody who would want me. So fast forward, playing poker with a guy, and he was like, hey, we just hired on this new manager at PNC that's doing mortgages. He's looking for young talent.
Yeah.
He goes, well, let's get you all connected.
See with the hands on the table. Sorry.
Sorry. I told you I'm a hand talker.
Yeah. Just don't. If you pick it up, don't put it back down.
So talk to him, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah.
He was looking for somebody that day and hired me on the spot. And
sweet. So you had a salary at the bank, right? As the person, and then was your first job as a lender commission, or was it salary plus commission? I always like to find that out.
Yeah, so it changed multiple times. So banks changed their compensation quite often. Mm-hmm. And actually there for a while, it would change multiple times a year.
Oh.
So we were on a draw first. So if you don't know what a draw is, they give you an allotted amount of money, and you better make enough sales to overpay that to yourself. And if you don't, then you have to pay back that draw.
Yeah.
So if I didn't close anything that month, it's kind of like commission, but they'd still pay me. But then I had to pay it back the next month.
Right.
If I didn't make enough in sales. Then they switched it to fully commission. And when they did that, I actually went to my boss and said, this is the worst mistake they can make for this position, is a fully salaried job. I may have said commission, but
you said commission.
No, sorry. They went to salary.
Okay.
So they went from a draw system to salary, and I said, this is the worst mistake they can make, is going to a salary-based job.
Yeah.
I can make more money on the draw than I can on a salary with bonuses. And so they put us on a salary. The salary wasn't that much. I mean, it was enough to pay the bills, but every year after that, they would change that commission so you would make less, change the salary bonus structure so that you had to work harder to make more money every year.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So as my production increases, my income wasn't increasing.
Yeah. Even though you had built that big client base, right. And it should have gotten easier.
And every year at the time, my first year as a lender, I made $20,000. I mean, scraping the barrel, like squeaking by. Luckily, my wife and I didn't have, we only had one kid at the time.
Yeah.
Very young, so we weren't too in debt to the kids yet, but $20,000 was rough.
Yeah.
The next year, doubled it, got it up to 45. And every year after that, it has gone up. But it got to a point with the pay structure at the bank just wasn't working out for me. And now I'm fully commissioned employee.
Gotcha. And who are you with now?
So I'm with Ruoff Mortgage now. It's a local company out of Indiana.
Okay.
It's great, like not too big, not too small, just a great company, great support. The CEO, the first time I met him, even knew Brad, the mortgage dad, took the time to look us up even. And they've been honestly awesome at helping me boost my brand and my business.
Yeah. Awesome. That's good. I mean, it's always good to hear that, I'm a firm believer in you should get paid what you earn. And in a salaried position, somebody's losing. Either the owner of the business is losing because you're not doing a good enough job, or you're doing too good of a job and you're not getting paid enough.
Right.
There's no middle. So, and I'm a firm believer in you get paid for what you earn, or what you save. You could be in the accounting department and save the company money every year, hand over fist, or getting the operations more streamlined. There are companies out there that do acquisitions, or they outsource people all the time to come in, regroup all their systems, and then that person gets paid what they either save or if they increase production or whatever for that company. So that's earning either how much money you made the company or how much money you saved them. And I'm a firm believer in that.
Well, and the commission part never scared me.
Yeah.
That was one thing when I was actually looking to switch out of the bank. My boss was like, well, this is full commission. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not worried. I know I'm not going to sit there and let myself go into debt.
Yeah.
Now there are good years and bad years. Don't get me wrong, but you just, and through hindsight, I've learned how in those good years to be a little more frugal than what I was before, because, it's easy to get wrapped up in those good years and how much you're making and, oh man, like, let's do this, let's do that. And then next thing you know, as we saw last year, and at least in the housing industry, everything stopped on a dime.
Yep.
And almost came to a grinding halt of business. And it's like, well, luckily, I have saved and set aside for those times. And, I'll admit early on, I went into debt to survive.
Yeah.
That was the only choice I had. But I knew I was going to get past that point.
Yep.
And so.
Yeah. And how long have you been a lender? I think we didn't establish that.
6 years going on 7.
6 years. So it's 2023. So 17, 16, 17.
2016, 17.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's all blurred at this point, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not been that long.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Those years, fast. And now how does having a job that doesn't have some super structured, you got to clock in, clock out, how does that complement your life? Always, that's a big thing for me. It's
been the best thing ever. Let me just tell you, if you have kids, being in a business structure like this is the most rewarding experience ever. Even if I didn't make good money, the freedom to be able to go to my kids' events and leave during the day without any kind of permission, and essentially being a self-employed business owner, the company doesn't micromanage me or anything like that. So I can just say, my daughter's got something going on at school today, or the kids are home today, and I just want to take off and spend the time with them. And so I can go on vacation when I want and all that. So it's very freeing having that ability.
Yeah.
But you also have to be very disciplined in knowing there is nobody really looking over your shoulder saying, hey, get this done, or did you do what you needed to do today? So it can be easily, if you're not careful, you can get wrapped up in I'm just going to sit at home and binge watch a TV show today.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a conversation that I've had with a lot of business owners or people that are new into owning businesses is you can't necessarily sleep in, or not even if you own the business or if you're starting your own business or working like that. It's if you're working from home, it's very easy to sleep till 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's okay to sleep till 9 o'clock if you stayed up till 1 doing work.
Yeah.
There's a difference. And some people work better at night, which an at-home business kind of helps. But if your job's reaching out to people, then you're not going to be making phone calls at midnight.
No. And I'm a morning person, so I do better in the mornings than I do in the evenings. And so I'm usually up at 5 a.m. every day. And it was there for a while, kind of doing like a morning routine, especially when the girls were in school. So they're 7 and 5, so they were in school. And before, I was waking up right when they needed to get up to get ready for school, and it was causing chaos throughout my day.
Yeah.
It would set the tone for the day, and my work was affected by that. So I was like, I have got to wake up earlier and have my time to prepare. And so I wake up about hour and a half before they have to get up. And even now, even with school being out, I still wake up at 5 just to kind of set that tone for the day. And then, some days I'll just get up and read, or other days I'll get up and work immediately, just hitting the computer, just planning the day out and figuring out what I'm going to do.
Yeah. That was the very next question, was talking about balance. So how do you balance even when you're on vacation? How do you balance that? Because I know you probably still get phone calls. You have to answer some emails. It's not like you just clocked out on Thursday and you don't have to clock back in until Tuesday.
Right. That is the toughest thing. For me, I have trouble balancing.
Uh-huh. Most people that have any type of success, and I think balance is bullshit. And I'm a firm believer in, when you're at home, be at home, but don't try to say, well, if I spend 4 hours in the office, I need to spend exactly 4 hours doing this. Or if I spend 8 hours here, I need to spend 8 hours here, or 3 hours here, 3, and break it up. That way everything's perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
But then your kids are never going to see how hard you work to provide for them.
Right.
And most people don't, unless they're like, oh, dad's gone all the time. Mm-hmm. That's how he provides. No, they see you on the computer sometimes or talking on the phone sometimes. Oh, dad's making some money. That's why we live here. That's why we have nice things.
Right.
And I think I'm a firm believer in not even worried about balance. It's business and life. It's all one life.
Right.
Is my thing. So
sure. And I agree. But recently, so it's funny that you're bringing this up, because recently I've had some internal struggles. So I am harder on myself than probably anybody else. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes for a lot of people in our position, where a lot of weight's kind of falling on you to provide.
Yep.
Right. And like you said, they need to see how hard I work to provide for them.
Yeah.
And it was getting to a point for me where I was so wrapped up in work. Like I told you earlier, there's events and I like to go to them. Well, there's something that came up where it was choose work or choose my kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've got to go work. I've got to do this. Business is tough right now. Mm-hmm. It's a tough industry. It's slower than usual. I really need to do this. And it was my daughter's preschool graduation.
Okay.
And my wife is like, "You're joking, right? Like you're gonna miss this. Like, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity." She goes, "How many events are you gonna do this week?"
Yeah.
And you can miss one event. And I'm like, I sat there and I was like, "You dumbass. Like, why would you even think to compare those two and all that?" And, and it goes, I think, a little bit back on the way I was raised. My dad worked his ass off for us. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. He was a service manager at a dealership.
Okay.
And so he would literally be gone by the time I woke up. And by the time I was going to bed, he was walking in the door.
Yeah.
As a kid, like mine are now, they don't see that. And I have trouble seeing that when they're young, is they don't care right now how hard I work. All they care is that I'm just there.
That's right.
For them. Now, when they get older, I want them to have the same work ethic I do, of course. But I got so wrapped up in, at least last year, just work, because rates are going up, inventory's going down, the market's shifting, money's not coming in like it was, and we've spent a lot of money too and kind of planned already. And so got wrapped up in this thing where I was overworking myself and lost that balance. Yeah. Like you said, there's no real balance. You can't have the perfect world. That's You're either focused on work or you're focused on home life and family.
Yeah. Now, and I believe in that for sure. Like, don't get me wrong. You're not supposed to be on the phone all the time when you're around your kids, but you can say, hey, I've got to take this call or whatever, but focus. But you be one thing or the other. Like, I don't know. That's kind of contradictory or hypocritical maybe. But
it's a double-edged sword.
It's a double-edged sword. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
some, but not too much. You can't be you can't literally sit be playing with your kid outside, playing ball or whatever, and on the phone during that time. That's
right.
Well, that's kid time.
And here's a perfect example. The other weekend, my kids were going to a neighborhood birthday party. Well, right when we're about to walk out for this birthday party, one of my good realtor partners calls and says, hey, I've got a realtor that is not happy with her current lender. She wants somebody that can answer her phone on the weekends if needed. And she's going to call you here in a minute, so answer your phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, thank you for, one, putting my name out there. And I told my wife, I was like, and my wife is super understanding. Told her, I said, hey, this just came in. I'm going to have to step away for this call and then to call the client afterwards and help them to try to put in an offer today. And it's a Saturday. Kids are going to a party. Once we got there, my kids have no clue that I'm even there.
That's exactly right.
Right. There are 10 kids playing around. They got a giant bounce house with a water slide going down it. Yeah. They're playing. That call came in. They had no clue I was gone.
Right. That's right. You just have to have that. And Kim, my wife, and I have this, the 30,000 foot view. You have to be able to externally look and know your surroundings. Like, okay, I'm in this situation. My kids are going to have no idea. They're playing with their friends and I don't have to watch them. They're just having fun.
Right.
So let me take this call. Yeah. It's not like you were sitting there having a tea party with one of your daughters.
Right. Now that would have been different. That would have been
stupid.
Yeah. I would not have picked up the phone and answered it. I would have told the realtor when I called him back, like, hey, look, I was spending time with my daughter. She was the priority at the time.
Yeah.
And even sometimes I will tell clients from 5 to 8:30, just know I'm available, but if I'm doing something with my family, if I'm eating dinner or I'm outside with my kids, spending time with them, I'm not answering my phone.
Yeah. And it's not a world-ending thing.
Right.
It's going to be,
most of the time
it
can
happen
wait.
at 6, it can also happen at 8:30.
Right. Because in our industry, at least mine, after 5 o'clock, not a lot really happens.
Right.
Because we're all in Eastern time zone. Processor's gone, underwriter's gone home, no appraiser's going out or anything like that. So a lot of times nothing's happening. So it can wait till the next day.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless there's something that's going to change the situation in the future that we've got to jump on now. Leave a message. I'll call you back when I'm free.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
and now next thing I'm going to talk to you about, I got to fix these cameras. So they only record for 29 minutes at a time. I have things to put on them for the next episode. Strategies on attracting and retaining clients.
Okay.
I'll listen while I do this. So
you want me to talk while you're doing this?
You can talk. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Strategies for getting clients. I know it's probably going to sound maybe cliche or prolific, but consistency. of just doing the necessary things. And what I mean by that is, our business has changed a lot since COVID has happened. And realtors are not in the office like they used to be. And visiting real estate offices doesn't always pay off like it used to. So now it's a matter of picking up the phone and making the calls like you need to. And it's a constant evolving and changing thing, right? So my goals this month to build clients and retain business might be different next month. And then for me, my clientele is my referral sources as realtors and then past clients as well. And it's just a matter of staying top of mind. And that's also why I kind of jumped in that video portion of business.
Yeah.
And so I will friend my clients and my realtor partners on social media so that I'm constantly showing up on their feed to where either they unfollow me is the only way I get out of their face.
Yeah. And that makes sense. So you use the same exact method to attract and retain.
Correct.
So
it's attracting and retaining. Yeah.
In the beginning, though, you didn't have that client base. So
No.
Let's rewind back to 2017 when you first started, 2018.
Sure.
How did you, because now, once you're in business for a while, it's very easy to utilize those past relationships to get new clients.
Sure.
And to have those as your current clients. They're going to keep coming back as long as you have that strong relationship. So in the beginning, how did you get new clients?
Literally printed off LBAR's list.
Okay. LBAR would be the board of realtors.
The listing board of realtors, now Bluegrass Realtors. Went to their website, pulled realtors up, started with the A's, and just started picking up the phone and calling them.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, I'm new in the business. I'd like to meet. Just want you to know who I am. I'm here in the Richmond area. I work at this bank. And I'm in the mortgage industry and just kind of want to pick your brain about how your success has been and kind of put it back on them. Like, what made you successful? How'd you get into real estate? And let's just kind of get to know each other.
Yeah.
And now I'm almost kind of back at that point because where, like I said, the market's shifted. Business isn't really coming in as much as it used to be. And so now you kind of have to go back out and get it again.
Yeah.
And we kind of lost that with COVID because we got
everything
lazy.
was so good. Yeah.
Right. Rates were down to 2.5. People were calling us. I could drive to the office and have 3 missed calls of people wanting to refinance or buy a new house. It was it was a great time for mortgage. And then, like I said, quickly shifted.
Yeah.
To where, and you may find this fascinating or not, but I saw a stat the other day. When COVID was in effect, there was 11,000 lenders in Kentucky.
Yeah.
There's now less than 8.
Yeah.
In just a few year period.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing with LBAR, the board of realtors. In 2021, there was like 5,000 realtors. And I don't know what the drop off was this year. It usually ebbs and flows. So usually if you have LBAR send you the list
right
in like March or April, it's up. But then in December, whenever everybody has to renew and they have to pay their $1,500 or $1,200 or whatever to keep their license, it drops drastically. And then in March or April, people will come back in and go back out. So it ebbs and flows. And I've seen, in 2018, I saw a lot of people leave. Then we saw a lot of people come back.
Yep.
So there's people that still have their license that haven't sold a house in a year or so.
Right. Well, and it ebbs and flows with LBAR too, because they're acquiring other board of realtors that are maybe not as big. So they're expanding.
Yeah.
Right. So they're grabbing other boards and kind of growing that way too.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell how many are falling off because they're constantly kind of growing the county base of how much they're footprint is.
Yeah. So they have a Somerset area now, or Pulaski County, Boyle County, Danville. Yeah. I didn't even think about them growing that way, more so as just new realtors. But these realtors have been doing it for a while. They've just been on non-board members because they didn't have to be.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't even think about that. So, somebody next door is knocking on something. And
that's a good mic. It can pick up that knocking next door.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a little hot. We have to adjust everything. So Brad before we started, he was talking about starting a podcast and asking questions about some stuff. And so I may show him like the minimum viable product that he needs to get started.
Yeah.
And I'm all about that. In any business to get started, minimum viable.
Right.
Brad started as a salary lender. Well, not necessarily salary. What did they
draw?
A draw that you had to you had to pay back, but they still gave you money even if you weren't necessarily getting business. So that's the minimum viable entry to becoming a lender. And then rip the Band-Aid off, full commission.
Yeah.
So how do you stay up to date with a lot of the trends and stuff that are going on in the market? Like, for instance, you said you do a lot of video stuff. So all the social media, there's a million different places to put videos out there. And, how do you stay up to date with trends as far as L-Bar is, or the Bluegrass Realtors, sorry, I'll just call it the Board of Realtors. They acquire other things. So that's a different thing of knowledge that you have.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to that, what I was talking about earlier with the balance and everything is I'm always trying to grow my knowledge. That is also a catch-22 because I'm always holding myself to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And so I'm always reading books. I'm looking at stuff online at what other people are doing and trying to stay on that trend of what's happening right now to where, in the future, it may be, I'll call myself a business-to-business employee right now because I'm mainly trying to go after other self-employed business owners, realtors.
Right. So that they can give you their clients.
So they can help
You're in the B2C industry, but you're getting clients B2B.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think it's starting to shift more as a B2C industry where we're needing to stay in front of these consumers more. And the other thing is, since I started the whole Brad the Mortgage Dad thing, it was all about education and innovation. Making sure you as a consumer are making the best choice, no matter if you're going with me or Joe Blow across the street.
Right.
Just make the right decision so you don't end up in a position like I did with my mortgage, where I was completely clueless about the whole situation. But to my detriment of growing myself is, and as I've learned and tried to kind of get that, as you said earlier, kind of that 3,000 or 30,000 foot view of myself is my goal line is constantly growing as I'm growing.
For sure.
So, like last year, I had a really good year last year, actually. And I was miserable, absolutely miserable. Not happy with myself, not happy with what I did, and made the most money I've made in my career.
Yeah.
And not happy. And my wife is like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah. Well, there's different forms of happy. So you may not have been happy with your year, but you're happy with how much money you made.
Sure.
And you can make up for that this year because everything's a little slower, so you can just ride that wave. Okay, I made whatever, we'll say $200,000 last year, and I'm only going to make $150 this year, but I also only need $100 to live.
Right.
So let's slow down. Let's go on a vacation that's not expensive so that we're not, let's go to the pool more.
Right.
Or let's grill out more. Or some inexpensive family activities that aren't necessarily going to cost you money, but business is a little slower. So utilize that time wisely. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's where I had to kind of step back because I actually wasn't happy with the money, even though it was the most I've ever made.
Yeah,
it wasn't enough for me.
Yeah,
I didn't hit my goals like I wanted to.
Okay.
And like I said, it's a constant battle of, I set this goal, and then where I reevaluate my goal so much is I keep increasing it. And so I've learned to try to enjoy the journey more now than the destination so much.
Yeah.
And so yeah, if you would have told myself 6 years ago, and that's what I have to tell myself sometimes is because I put myself so much stress on myself to be successful and to grow, that I was like, 6 years ago, if you would have sat there and told me as I was barely scraping by with $20,000 a year, that this is where I'd be, this is the house I'd have, this is the family I'd have, I'd have been like, you're nuts.
Yeah.
You're absolutely nuts. There's no way.
But I tell people all the time, if you are not the type of person that will continue to move the goalpost, then you won't get that success because you'll get stagnant and be satisfied.
Right.
And then, you would have never made it to 6 figures because you would have been satisfied at 40.
Right.
Even though you wanted to get 6 figures, you're like,
never would have thought I made 6 figures.
Yeah.
Never would have thought about it. And was disappointed in it last year.
Yeah.
And I was just like, are you shitting me?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's one of those fine lines you have to be careful with, because like for me, what was happening was where I was constantly moving the goalpost, I was never satisfied, and then was constantly beating myself up for not ever hitting the goal.
Yeah.
Well, that's because I kept moving it.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant battle of learning how to balance all that out.
Yeah. And a lot of people do struggle with that, but you have to give yourself a little pat on the back and just keep moving.
Yeah. And that's the hardest thing to do for me.
For a lot of people it is. But
I have to have other people tell me like,
you can't dwell on your
job.
Success,
right?
Or you can't dwell on your failures. You just have to all right, I did good. Let's keep going.
Yep.
And what about videos? How do you put them out? We were talking about latest trends, and a lot of that is, how do you do your social media? Do you have a private Facebook group? Let's get into a couple of strategies so that people really know. Do you send out emails? Just post on social media? What's your strategy?
I don't do the email thing. It is strictly focused on social media and shooting videos. And so what I will do is the weekend before the week. So this weekend was working on what content I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
And I've recently started to batch record.
Okay.
So try to shoot everything in one day and then release it over a period of time. It doesn't always work out that way, with having a 7 and a 5-year-old at home. Sometimes I can't just take those hours out of the day to kind of shoot all those videos, but they do like to help me. I mean, that I do try to include them in the videos every so often. But so I'll work on what content I want to create and what I want to talk about. And it could be something that happened last week or that's going to happen next week that I know about. A lot of times it's scrolling through social media and seeing some of these other people putting out videos. I don't want to say influencers, but other people putting out videos that is wrong information.
Yeah.
A lot of times, one of the recent ones I saw, this lender was talking about minimum credit scores for loans. Well, they were talking about their minimum credit scores for their lender that they work for, not
an industry as a whole.
An industry as a whole, because, and they weren't explaining that. And I was like, just know that there are lenders out here that work with credit score X.
Yeah.
Just because this person says they only go to this.
Yeah.
And so that, it was the call to action was call me if you've been denied.
Yeah.
And let's talk about if that was denial because of their rules or because of the industry says you can't afford a house right now.
Yeah. So, your strategy would say, something that you would tell the public would be always seek other advice, right?
Right.
Like
I'm not original by any means.
Yeah.
Now, I won't say that I am, but seeking advice from others, like, when I saw your setup here, it's all right, he knows what he's doing with this podcast stuff. So let me talk to you about if I wanted to get into this, what's it going to take to get the audio and I don't know about the video, but at least the audio section where it sounds good and it's consistent. And then there's other people that were doing videos on social media that I actually reached out to and said, hey, I love your content. Can we get together and have coffee just to talk about what you do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more so in the B2C, like you're saying, as a consumer, don't just listen to the one person if you're trying to get a loan and get denied.
Yeah. Don't Google it because you'll find any answer you want. Don't listen to one person because you'll find the answer you want to hear. You need to have your choices, shop around. I always tell people, shop around.
Yeah.
Because I myself, I know I can only do certain things, but I have lenders in my back pocket that I know can do other things that I'm always, hey, if this is what you're looking for, go see, Mitch over here.
Yeah.
And that also looks good for a client because you're taking care of them, not
no matter
just,
if they're your client, you're still going to take care of them.
I'd rather them go to somebody I can trust and know that they're going to be taken care of than to just let them Google a business and figure out, oh, let's go to this online lender because I've heard great things.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. And now earlier you were talking about networking. How has that played a role in your business? What networking groups are you a part of?
Too many.
Yeah.
My wife would tell you way too many.
Yeah.
I've actually had to learn to say no this year to some things because it came up where I could be on the local board in our county where I live, Madison County. And I was like, no, I can't. I can't take on one more thing right now. I've already done enough. It got to a point actually where, so I'm part of the Bluegrass Realtors, the YPN of Bluegrass Realtors. Yeah. So they're
Young Professional Network.
I was on the board of the Mortgage Bankers Association. I was the president last year and outgoing president this year, and got those meetings. Got a B&I group that I'm a part of, and just kind of my own self group of people that we just kind of get together every once in a while and have drinks or something. And then events. It got to a point actually earlier this year, I was doing 4 events a week sometimes.
Yeah.
And so my wife was like, I love you. I know this is what it takes, but can we step this back a little bit, please? And I was like, oh, sure. I get blinders on.
Yep.
And when I'm focused, that's all I see. And I have no clue what's happening outside of that.
Yeah.
And so I would tell you networking is the biggest thing you can do to grow your business, to get your brand out there, for people to know who you are, so that, and it takes time. Like I told you, my first videos, when I started doing videos, it took 9 months for somebody to even recognize me from doing those videos. And now I get business because realtors will see what I'm doing on Facebook and they're like, hey, you're doing some great stuff. I've got a client that needs some help. Can you help them?
Yeah.
And it's paid off now. It took a while. And the same thing with networking. It takes a while. I mean, there's a real estate office I've been trying to get an office into since I've probably been into the mortgage industry. And then just now, 6 years later, like this close to getting in with them. And, it's one of those things. It's just that persistent, consistent.
So to get a realtor at that office? Or
No. To get in that office, to get an office inside that real estate office.
Oh, I got you. To be the preferred lender or whatever,
right?
I guess.
Essentially, yeah. Just to kind of have a presence there all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's tough. I'm with you on the networking. I think it needs to be like a strategic networking. So you go
what do you mean by that?
So you hit the highest profitable networking events. So where the people that are going to be there are the main people, not necessarily the event that people who aren't doing anything, because there's a lot of people that just go to networking events because they have plenty of time to go to networking events.
Sure.
And then there's other people
like to drink and eat.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Yeah. And we've figured out that one of my sales girls, she has been going to a bunch of networking events, and it is literally the same people at every single one, and they all do the same thing, but they're not really passing business back and forth.
Right.
So it's just like they like to do the after hours thing and not go home to their family. It's like they avoid that man, they go to every one of them, but there's no business being done. It's just talking about the latest basketball game or whatever is going on.
And that's it. A lot of times you kind of have to build that relationship first before you can just ask for that business.
Yeah.
I mean, luckily I was never in the online dating world, thank God, because I would not survive today.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine like going out with a girl and be like, "Hey, you want to sleep with me the first time we've met?" And it's it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that may be an inappropriate example. I don't know.
No, I've used that example before.
Right, like you can't get it without building that relationship.
That's right.
So
hey, that's exactly I use that example all the time.
we must listen to the same thing or just talk about the same thing a lot. But yeah, so you have to build those relationships, right? Yep. Like the first time I went to these events, nobody knew who I was, what I did, who I worked for, could care less who I am even.
Yeah.
Didn't care. I would go up and talk to people and they'd give me the cold shoulder and walk away.
Yeah. Because they don't know, like, or trust you yet. They have to get to know you. Then they have to actually like you. Because, I mean, let's face it, there are a ton of people that do the exact same things that you do.
Sure.
A ton of people that do the exact same thing that I do. So then when you build the trust with them, then they start doing business with you.
Right.
And the way to build that trust is exactly what you said a few minutes ago. You, even if they're not your client, you know someone who will work with them. Mm-hmm. That speaks volumes when trying to get new business and build trust with people.
Right.
People know that, okay, I know when Brad does take care of me, he's going to take really good care of me because he couldn't last time. And he sent me somewhere else and wasn't mad that I had to go somewhere else.
And who knows who he may know to help me with this next thing, or he can help me with this next thing. Right.
Exactly. They're going to lean on you and lean on the advice that you give them because they know you're in the business to take care of them, not to just be pissed because they used somebody else for one transaction. And some people use you for certain transactions, but they have relationships with other lenders as well. So they can't exclusively use you.
Right.
Otherwise, they may be losing business.
Well, and for the clients who call, again, it's you're trying to get the client to trust you and want to use you, right?
Yeah.
But and realtors should have multiple lenders working for them because not everybody's going to click with my personality.
Exactly.
There's, we know a mutual friend, Adam, is in the business. There's going to be people that click with him better that click with me.
Yeah.
But, and I'm a type of person who understands I don't need all the business.
Or have time to do all of it.
And I don't want it all.
That's right.
There are times when I'm like, I am not working with that person.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't care if they are the biggest realtor out there, I will never work with them.
That's right.
Because I don't need that headache.
Yeah.
And, luckily I'm at a point in, I guess, my business that I can say that. Mm-hmm. Early on, I may not have said that. I may have just taken whatever I could get to pay the bills. But, you've got to learn to, like I said, to say no to people and be like, you're not worth my headache.
Yeah.
Because you're just...
Well, because you're going to take time away from the people that I really want to work with and build a lasting relationship instead of just a transaction.
Well, and I'll say that's probably a big key to my success too, is I've surrounded myself with like-minded people that are in the same mindset of growth that I am and are always encouraging and go in the same direction I am, because I've been around those other people too, and they will bring you down real quick.
Yeah. Whether
you want it or not, and whether they're intentionally doing it or not, they are bringing you down, and it can make an effect on your business.
Yeah, a negative effect. Just as much as hanging around the right people will make a positive effect.
Correct.
So, one final thought: what advice would you give someone looking to get in the lending industry? If they're in banking right now, or if they're selling real estate, but they think, man, I would like to get, I like that strategy that the lenders have been using, blah, whatever industry they're in, what advice would you have for them getting into lending?
Give yourself, like you said, the pat on the back and give it time. You're going to have a lot of rough road to get to where you're in a comfortable position and successful, and kind of, like you said, it takes a lot of work up front. I can tell you I don't work as hard as I did 6 years ago because I have more connections now. It's easier for me to call up a realtor now and say, hey, I'm Brad, and they know who I am just from circumstance of being around. But give it time, be consistent, don't give up, find advice from, I had great mentors and have great mentors now, and that has a huge effect on your business. I've had coaches help me with my growth, and I read books and constantly am trying to learn new ways to make it happen. So that, I don't know if that was the good advice you're looking for, but essentially take your time, don't beat yourself up, and just keep at it.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. That's all we have. Thank you for listening to the Kyle Terry podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. If you want to grow your business, follow us on social media. And remember, there's no secret to success. You have to work for it.